Everybody, and thank you for joining us once more for one of our In Conversation videos. Today I'm with one of Mission Partners' latest and newest partners based in Pune in India and also in Mumbai, as I believe. Kiran, hello, good morning. And of course, you founded the Xebec agency. It's great to have you with us. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Paul. Thanks for having me.
No, the pleasure's ours. Kiran, you've been in the Indian business for quite a while now, the Indian creative business, and I've known of your agency, and we've worked together in the past. But I'd really love it if you could tell us a little bit more about the agency, so our colleagues out there in the Mission Group and of course around the world could learn what you guys do.
Yeah. So Paul, Xebec it's a 3-decade-old agency. We started as a traditional agency, like probably everybody else. But in the last 12 years, we are now a hybrid marketing agency, which means we bring a combination of strategic branding and digital. That's the offering which we give to all our clients. Creative is at the base of everything what we do. So when we say creative, one of the biggest advantages, so like we bring in the wisdom of 3 decades and the youthfulness of the Gen Z team which we have. So like 70% of, as you know, India is a very young country. So 70 to I think 75% of our team is drawn from the Gen Z. So they are very much on the ball where all the social trends and digital trends are concerned. And also India is very big on social media. Instagram, India is number 2 actually, where Instagram stats are concerned. And all our clients are digital first campaigns now, which is followed then by OH, and there's a bit of print media still going on. OTT platforms are doing very well in India. So like I said, it's a very good marriage between wisdom and youth. So that's a very good combination which we give our clients. Having said that, I still believe that one thing which has not changed in 3 decades is that creative is at the base of everything what we do. So when we say, I mean, everybody becomes old, agencies sometimes become dated and, aging agencies as they call. But what I would like to say is that because we've worked with so many verticals and so many sectors, we bring all this expertise into any new client we sign up, right? So if it's a retail client, then obviously we've handled several retail clients, or, in India, there are some sectors which are really booming. Some of them are like financial services, or even B2B, retail, real estate. So, I mean, there are, of course, FMCG is an evergreen sector. So, since we've handled over 100 brands, we've launched over 100 brands in India, we've built at least 25 to 30 successful brands which are doing very well. Many of them are listed in the stock exchange of India. So, this is the expertise we bring. So, we quickly understand a sector. So, I would take up the challenge that any sector you throw at us, we'll get to the bottom of it very, very quickly. So, the hand holding is that much less where we are concerned, which helps our clients. And of course, they are delighted with that entire way we function. Okay. So, and second is once we do all this creative, then we need to know how we're going to disseminate it to the media. Understanding the target audience. See, today, a lot of the newbie agencies don't understand. They just understand creative. They understand the medium, but they don't understand that, how are we going to target, who is the target audience, and what is the kind of message we need to give them. So it's not like a one fit for all, no? I mean, the kind of work we do, it's very, very customized. So I think that's the kind of expertise we really bring to the table and why clients sign us up. One is vertical expertise. So if I put it in a nutshell, in just like a couple of bullet points, then I'd say the creativity we bring to the table, understanding the target audience, and number 3 is vertical expertise, whereby they don't have to do so much hand holding to make us understand the whole industry, the sector, and about them. So this is how, and of course the talent we have. So we nurture our talent. I would say we give a lot of emphasis. I mean, I personally mentor my team members, especially the people who are client front facing. Because we feel now there's nothing called client servicing, they're all become, content strategists and solutionists, because that's the only thing what we need to do. There's no more coordination which is required between there is a hygiene coordination which is required, but primarily when a client's talking to somebody from the agency, what they really want is they want solutions, they want ideas, they want to know how to take their brand forward. Simple. So this is how we are training the new gen team what we have, how to be better client-facing people from a completely solution and strategy perspective.
I love the idea. I think I'm paraphrasing slightly when you sort of said the blend of sort of wisdom and youth, and I think that's a really nice way to look at it. I mean, we have a slightly sort of ruder expression in the UK, which talks about having the grey hair, which I'm starting to get plenty of personally. But I love the idea that you're using that as a way to bring on new talent whilst embracing all of the new stuff as well, which I think is so important because it's very easy for us to forget the core skills when we move on to doing new stuff and we get excited as an industry with the next big shiny thing. So Kiran, how big is the agency and how is it sort of structured in terms of departments and people?
Yeah, so we've got around 80 people, and of course we have the digital teams, which is performance. Google performance is separate, and we have the Meta guys who are it's a different team. We have the media buyers who are media buying into OTT platforms and other digital platforms in India. So that's the performance bit. Creative, of course, we have the digital specialists who are video guys, editors who are actually going and shooting films, who are doing animation, and also we have the mainline team, our team, who are primarily into branding. So we are a full service agency. So this is pretty much how, and of course the client facing people who also work on content strategy and also handle the client. So like for example, we have teams. So one particular team will handle maybe 3 to 4 clients. So with them we have an art director, we have a copy person, we have a content strategist who can think of like a social calendar, and the video guys are normally we share them between 3 to 4 teams. So this is pretty much, so I would say around 50 to 60% people, I think, yeah, almost 60% would be in pure creative, or creating stuff. I mean, of course, everybody in the agency, as you know, is supposed to be creative. Is creative. Yeah. But yeah, they're supposed to bring creativity to the table. But these are the like pure, in whatever they're creating something or the other, whether it's videos or mainline creatives also, because in India print still is okay. It's a dying medium in India too, but we have a lot of language press. So in the language in certain states, if it's for certain FMCG products, and language still the print does very well in these places.
I think it's very easy for us to forget, the sort of the size and actually the diversity in India when it comes to the type of media consumption, but also in terms of the population. I mean, I'm always curious, and I ask this pretty much to everybody I talk to that joins, because how did you get into the industry, and what made you want to start the agency in the first place?
Oh, that's Paul. This is going to take like episode 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Let's go for the abridged version.
Yeah. Okay. So I worked very briefly for a large Indian agency, very very briefly, but then I realized that corporate life, as you're aware, in India especially, you've got to navigate a lot of corporate politics. So I realized I'm not really cut out for. Of course, now I have to deal with the hundreds of clients, but that's a different issue, right? So I think I had entrepreneurship in my probably blood, as we would say in India. And I'm a first generation entrepreneur. I also wrote a book, by the way. I've written 2 books. So my one book is on entrepreneurship. It's called No Holy Cows in Business. So this book I wrote from my experience as a first generation entrepreneur. So I said I can help a whole bunch of people. So advertising was something which we started it with 3 or 4. It was a startup 3 decades ago. But the 3 people who started with me realized that entrepreneurship was not their core competency. So they all quit one by one. So I was left holding the baby. So it's a very interesting story. That's why I said it'll be like episode, like season 1.
Well, I love the idea. I love the idea that you just managed to get the plug for the book in there as well. I mean, like a true entrepreneur, sell. Fantastic.
Of course, Paul, I have to do that. I'm in advertising. Come on, if I can't do that kind of
I wouldn't expect anything less, to be quite honest. I'd be disappointed if you hadn't. I'm also very curious because I mean, you talked about how the agency. I mean, you threw the gauntlet down slightly to our colleagues out there and saying you've done pretty much everything and you cover every sector, which I've no doubt is the case given the duration of the agency's life. But is there a client or a sector or something which is the sort of dream client or dream thing that you'd really like to work on? And it doesn't have to be something that's necessarily going to make a ton of money, but as an area that is passion for you, perhaps.
A dream client, of course. I mean, see, a dream client for an agency is always a very big brand, right? I mean, which is a globally, I mean, like an Apple or even a Google. I would love to work on a Google, for example. So a Google campaign would be fabulous. I mean, that would be a dream client where we would bring in, although Google is being handled by O&M in India, they're doing a very good job. Ogilvy, sorry, now it's called Ogilvy, branded as Ogilvy in India. So they're doing a damn good job, and they've brought in a lot of Indian nuances into that whole, into the brand. And but yeah, that would be a phenomenal brand to handle, no doubt about it.
Okay. I'm also very curious, and I've visited, been lucky enough to visit India a number of times, and I'm always taken by the size and the scale and the creativity within the Indian creative industry. I mean, we talk about it, using the broadest possible context, and everything from Bollywood right the way down to digital, whatever else happens to be in between. Now, it truly is huge, but what do you think makes the Indian creative industry different to the rest of the world? What makes it stand out as an industry?
I would say the Indian industry, like when I go to Cannes and when you see the work there, so Indian advertising is very colorful. It's like Brazilian work. I would say very close to what I've seen in the Brazilian work especially. So it's very like the Indians. See, Indians as a race, I would say they are. Because of our ethnicity and the number of languages we speak, like any Indian would speak at least 3 languages, right? So obviously that means it's a cross-cultural point, which is very, very strong. So in the sense, like I myself can speak around 3 Indian languages, right?
You put me to shame with your linguistic skills.
So yeah, but so each state is varied. So now if you can speak 3 different languages, which means you understand at least the basic nuances of 3 different, I mean, it's almost like a race within India, to be very honest with you, because like where I'm sitting in, which is Maharashtra, is very different from Delhi, which is the capital of India. So, because of our ethnicity, the way it is, it's not all homogeneous, it's very heterogeneous. So Indian advertising is a bit loud, it's colorful, it's very diverse. Some of the FMCG like washing powder, etc., I still feel it's very sexist, the advertising. But see, that's because India is it's a very diverse country. Like there's a very modern India where people understand gender equality or like fairness creams. India is a country which has got fairness creams, like how you have tanning creams, we have fairness creams. So people use these fairness creams to make the skin look lighter. So now all this is changing in India as well, in the sense now Unilever, that's Hindustan Unilever, which is the Indian counterpart of Unilever. So they came out with this very modern campaign or very new age campaign where they said that it's not skin color is not all. In fact, they changed the name of the brand from Fair and Lovely to what was it called? It's called whatever. Whatever. They changed it from Fair and Lovely to I think what did they call it? Whatever. I can't remember the name now because it's still a new one. But essentially they changed that very damaging word called Fair and Lovely to whatever, X and Lovely, right? So that itself shows that India also is changing. But other than that, as an industry, it's Indian advertising is very interesting. It's not homogeneous. It's exactly like how we are. And you can see all kinds of good work as well, especially the new age brands. We have a lot of D2C brands who are doing very good work, which is very different. I mean, we can push the envelope. Otherwise, when it's more traditional brands, they would like to stick to a template, right? Because it's a global template and they'll allow you to just do a little bit here and there. But the new age brands, we can really push the envelope and we can really do different stuff. So yeah, essentially, I would say it's colorful, it's musical. We have our Hindi film industry, which is the equivalent of Hollywood, is called Bollywood here. I mean, that's just like a crass name. They call it Bollywood, but it's actually the Hindi film industry. It's also like very colorful. So we take a lot of inspiration from the popular culture, which happens to be the Hindi film industry. Yeah. So advertising, a lot of our films are kind of creative directors are always taking inspiration from there to create work.
Yeah, and I've sort of experienced the sort of Bollywood influence in creativity firsthand, and that, you know, that the passion, and I think that the depth of storytelling that goes into work is probably greater than perhaps it's expected in Northern Europe, and even into sort of small commercials, there's a bigger depth of storytelling that goes into it, and the color and the excitement. I'm also curious about the B2B side of things, because obviously a lot of what Mission does is B2B, but do you think there's a difference in the way that relationships are handled in B2B, where you've got that sort of longer sales chain, and where communication then tends to sort of follow that pattern? Is it the same in India, do you think, or is there a slight difference in the way that people work?
It's the same in India. What I find is B2B, the clients that way are more long-term clients as compared to B2C clients. Because they understand that see, first of all, there are very few clients, there are very few agencies in India who kind of understand B2B and who can specialize in B2B as a vertical. So that's a big plus, you know. And then once they have this agency and they kind of understand that vertical, understand their products, it's normally a pretty long-term relationship. They don't like to change agency partners that frequently. But having said that, they are more conservative in their spending, more conservative in their overall marketing outlook. This is what we find in India. But I think all that's going to change, because now everybody knows that, you know, you've got to be on certain social platforms. You've got to create that X amount of content, because otherwise Indian B2B companies normally relied on trade journals, etc., which is all now passé, because the trade journals no longer exist. Nobody sees them. It's all online. So we're creating a lot of digital content out there. And yeah, so the sales cycle, see, we understand where the sales cycle is pretty long, because there are other sectors also where the cycle is strong. So we can keep doing intervention communication right through, you know, the whole communication trajectory, which we understand. We've also been able to generate a lot of very good leads for some of our B2B clients. So they're pretty happy with from where, you know, from the space we're coming from. Plus all the support we give them in trade fairs and generally creating content. Yeah, so B2B clients overall, the Gen Z, they are not very kicked about handling B2B. So we need a little older set of people generally who can handle our B2B clients. But overall, I think B2B is a sector which can do very well in India, and also there's very little competition, to be very honest, in that space.
That's interesting. And again, this is a slight aside, but I mean, there was a project that came across my desk a week or two ago, and it was called B2B Influencers in Japan, actually. And the discovery for me was actually that this doesn't really exist in Japan, because the decision maker in a B2B place is considerably older and therefore less engaged with social media and influencers. Is B2B influencer a thing in India at the moment, or has that not reached you yet?
Honestly, we are trying as an agency to develop a B2B influencer network, but it's very hard. The reason is, see, like in B2B also, there are 2-3 kinds of B2B, right? One is a B2B for manufacturing and one is B2B IT. So B2B IT, it's possible. We've done it also for a cybersecurity company, but for B2B manufacturing, it's rather difficult, because the only way we can do the B2B influencer is either through YouTube or through LinkedIn, and they just don't have those very number of followers. I mean, they're mainly industrial consultants or so, but we are actually trying to develop a B2B influencer network, and we've not been very successful so far. Like, you know, like how we have a B2C, because it's for the simple reason, like you rightly said, they just don't have those many followers, although they may be creating content, but you know, normally there has to be, of course, for B2B, they do need to have 1 lakh followers, but they need to have otherwise, you know, it doesn't make any sense because the reach is only 1,000 or 2,000, which doesn't make sense. So,
yeah. No, that as you say, that makes sense. I mean, to move it on a little bit, I wanted to really touch on it, if I could, about, you know, the industry as where you feel it is, and what you think the challenges might be for the Indian creative industry, both B2B, B2C, in the next 6 months or so? I know, these are sort of questions people go, oh my gosh, I mean, how am I supposed to think things change so quickly? But I'm also very conscious of the fact that India is an environment where things do change very quickly. It's dynamic, it's exciting. At one end of the spectrum, you guys have just landed on the South Pole of the moon, and the other end of the spectrum, there's all sorts of other stuff going on, and it's a melting pot of excitement. But how does that impact the industry, and where do you think that will take the industry in the next 6 months or so?
See, now what's happened is with all these. So one of the things is there's going to be a lot of, already, not there is going to be, there is already a lot of, I think there's going to be a new field called creative tech. And who knows, India may just lead in the creative tech, because already, as you know, we are the largest consumers of mobile phones. So all our communication, we are doing mobile first communications. First what we see is not whether it's going to look on a billboard or it's going to look good on an OTT platform. We see how this entire thing is going to be consumed on a mobile. So, everything, including a website, we first do now how it's going to look on a website, and of course, how it's going to look on a mobile, right? So everything is mobile first. I won't even want to call it digital first. Like I said in the beginning of our talk, it's actually mobile first. So that's pretty tricky, because mobile, it's vertical, it's not horizontal. So so everything what we have to do is you have to create it first vertically. Two is obviously in that little screen, you got to create a big impact. So I would say the biggest challenge for creative people is understanding the medium, understanding that now, see, there's an additional, so that basically there are additional parameters which have come into the mix. So earlier it was like understanding the vertical, understanding the TG. Now you got to understand the medium very well. So how do people, like, see, me as a person, for example, I'll give you a very good example, okay? Me as a person on LinkedIn is very different from how I am on Instagram, right? Like on Instagram, I have a different persona. Whereas on LinkedIn, I have a different persona. And on Facebook, I have a different persona, because Facebook is very massy as far as I'm concerned. And Instagram is a little more classy and a little more, the kind of people who are my friends on Instagram are different. And of course, LinkedIn is completely corporate, where I have to show my corporate profile. So now this is the same challenge which creative people are going to have. That is the personas for how is that brand going to interact in different platforms, right?
Yeah.
So it's all, we are becoming schizophrenic. I think we are no longer one, it's like even brands. I think that's one of the biggest things. Like all brands are aging. How do brands become, for the younger audience, how should they reach out to the younger audience? How should they be cool for them? Like the Gen Z, others will just not even go to some of these brands, which, the older gen, even the millennials are shopping at, right? So I think these are all the real challenges to understand the medium, understand the TG, how the fast evolving behavior, because of the fact that in India sees at the cutting edge of information technology. That's for sure. The digital age, like India is really up there. Like whether it's digital payments, no other country has digital payments like what India has. Today I don't need to carry cash in my pocket, even if I go. Like say where I am in Pune in Maharashtra, I'm going to Delhi, which is like 2,500 kilometers away. I don't need my wallet. I just need my phone. I just need my mobile phone. I can do everything there, right? From paying my cab driver to paying my hotel to whatever else I need. I don't know, metro or metro card or everything is possible with the mobile. So now see, think of all the creative people have to think like this, right? They have to think of use case scenarios for their end customer. So and that's why you've got to be with it. You've got to be where your customer is. How are they interacting with the medium? How are they consuming stuff? How are they consuming content? So this is where I feel, today, that's the biggest thing. See, earlier days, I would say, since I've been in the business for the last 3 decades. Earlier I feel that the creative people could probably only stick to creativity. Today they have to understand the medium and understand how a person relates to that medium. So that's where the mix is going to be, the creative as well as the medium, and how it's going to come together in very interesting ways.
No, fascinating. And I remember, I think what people really need to grasp, because from my experience, is that sort of acceleration into digital has been quite rapid. and it is prolific absolutely everywhere, as you say. I mean, it is quite extraordinary. I mean, speaking as a Brit, I mean, I struggle sometimes to get a decent phone signal in central London, and you know, we're supposed to be heading towards this sort of cashless digital society as well, but it's completely different when you come to India. It really is working. I mean, I was going to ask you, from the point of view of anybody looking to do work in India, creative work in India, what would be your single piece of advice? But I think you probably answered that with the sort of talk to me type. It's really complicated. You need to understand it at a granular level. Would that be sort of the answer?
Absolutely. See, for B2B may not be so much, because I feel B2B, I mean, what I would create here in India, I think would pretty much work in US or UK or wherever. But for other sectors, you definitely need to understand. You need to understand Indian mindsets. Maybe, you know, if it's fashion or makeup, you know, cosmetics, I probably it's like a universal language. But and B2B definitely, I think it's pretty much universal. But yeah, for some other sectors, then you got to understand Indian nuances much more closely and understand the ethnicity and the diversity which is India. So, but we can help you guys navigate through all that.
Well, that was going to be my next up question actually to you, which is given all of this complexity that we've been talking about, when one of our agencies or one of our colleagues gets a brief that involves India, I'm assuming that probably the best way to get you involved is right at the start. Would that be fair?
Yeah, absolutely. Right at the start, so that we know what's happening and, you know, what's the India bit and what we're supposed to do. So definitely it makes sense right at the beginning. So, you know, we understand also, because see, there'll be one central campaign, right? So we understand what's that big brand thought. So we're all then part of it. So we, you know, we are not talking a different language. So we're all saying the same thing in maybe the language which India can understand. So, but the thought will be the same, right?
Yeah, cool. I'm conscious that we're almost out of time, but I just wanted to say thank you very much. And if any of our colleagues want to reach out to you, I guess probably the best way to do it is by email and engage with you directly if they have any questions. Would that be okay?
Perfect. Absolutely.
Right.
And if they want, and after that, if you want to take the conversation forward, we can always set up a Teams call like this. But the first contact could be a mail, which is perfect. Maybe you're also copied on it, so we're all on the same page. Works.
Perfect. Kiran, thank you so much. I mean, every time I speak to anybody in the industry from India, I always learn so much, and I realise that actually there's so little I do actually already know. But it's always enlightening to speak to you, and I thank you so much for your time. And on behalf of the mission and mission partners, we thank you for joining us, and we're looking forward to working with you in the future.
Thank you, Paul.